Hello everyone, welcome to the live stream. It is 7:55 Arizona time, it's 9:55 East Coast time, and equities markets, U.S. equities are all higher, with the exception of the Russell. It's down 1 basis point. Volatility on the S&P is down, but volatility on the Russell is up. So the Russell was the stronger one yesterday. It's the weaker one yesterday. I think that we're probably seeing some rotation out of the Russell into the other in favor of the other indices. Although the Nasdaq is strong, it's up 49. It's up about 0.5%. So, I mean, the Russell was disproportionately higher yesterday. So I guess that this somewhat makes sense. The Russell might have gotten a little bit over its skis. It was perceived by investors as being the safest place. Overall, I think in the face of trade wars, but my observation is that I think that investors have largely shaken off those fears, and they're comfortable with the idea of things like interest rates and interest rate increases and trade wars being a headwind to a robust economy, just so that it doesn't overheat. So because of that, I was taking a look at the other futures. I compared the Nasdaq and the S&P and the Russell, or not the Russell, the Dow, and I decided to go ahead and take a short in the Russell. All of them were right for a short, but the Russell was the one that seemed to have the least risk because it was closer to, just because of the moving averages. It was already below its major moving averages, whereas the other indices were about to make a cross, whether it was the 250 or the 80 or the 90. The Russell was already below its moving averages, so it to me seemed like it was a pretty good short. And it turned against me for a little bit in this bar right here, but now it's working out as planned. So the thing I need to do, which I have not done yet, is I need to go in and see if I need to make adjustments to my chart drawings in order to identify appropriate levels of resistance and support. But right now, the Russell pretty much has blue ocean all the way down to this 250 period moving average. Not saying that we'll necessarily trade down to that area. In fact, I think now would probably be a good time to get out. Because looking at the stochastics, I think we're going to have more opportunities to short this again. Yeah, I mean, with the 1 hour as our guide, with the 30-minute as our guide, with the 15-minute as our guide, I mean, those time frames tell us that yes, this has more room to the downside. So unless some outside force acts upon it and pushes it up, which it does temporarily, but what I mean is if there's some outside force which comes in, which just dramatically changes this picture. I'm going to stick with shorting the Russell today. Can't tell if this move down is resuming. I mean, generally the reason why I got out, I covered it, was because I saw this happening, this reversal, which it looks like it's continuing. So, reversals don't just all of a sudden happen. It doesn't matter what time frame you're on. If you're on a minute time frame or if you're on a day time frame, reversals don't just happen. I mean, they take time. They bounce back and forth a little bit. Sometimes they move sideways. They send mixed signals. You get a lot of seesaw. Yeah, that move up failed. It's in the face of persistent selling, you can tell the move up tries in earnest, and then it just gets, the wave of selling comes in. They just get met. With the selling, the bears are defending, this level here, somewhere in this area. Now I just adjusted this regression channel, which if I zoom out, you can kind of see the big picture. Oops, hold on. It might be easier on here. This was yesterday's gap down, so this regression channel starts from the gap down overnight. This trend line I kept. This one here is still intact, as you can see. This one is not. It got broken. It broke above. So if I zoom out, yeah, that's the best. Okay, I don't know where the handle is. Come on. Should have just drawn a new one. Close enough. So now it's breaking below the lower boundary of the trend line, making a play for this, well, trend, the regression channel, and then this trend line. That's the next stop. Although I shouldn't say that because it does have this moving average here too. So oh no. So I'm going to wait for a pullback almost to this trend line here, which we're getting. Although it's very possible it may not even stop there. I mean, it might just... See, and that's what makes it so difficult is without this overwhelming selling pressure, like if it was just moving in waves and the shorter term stochastics were able to trade out of oversold up into overbought, it's a lot more predictable. So in wanting to be consistent with this idea of taking high probability trades, like shorting here is not a high probability trade. It's about a 50-50. Now what's more likely would be a bounce, like a trade up to here and then a bounce down. That might be a better play. However, in the absence of these stochastics showing another turn down, this early in the day, I don't want to put my capital at risk, you know, what I've made so far. So a close above that trend line. My interpretation is that this move to the upside is has a little bit more to it. But again, this isn't something that I want to. I don't like playing counter trend rallies. Excuse me. It's looking like another leg down here, another wave down. It did on the last one trade just above that moving average I was showing you on the shorter time frames. It was the 10 period MA. I'm not in any hurry, so that's one thing is patience. I mean, you don't want to have so much patience that you just miss all the opportunities, but you don't want to rush into a trade either just for the sake of being in it. You know, you want to make sure you've got the right setup. This probably was the right setup. You know, probably could get in here on this pullback. Pullback to right to the line almost. Maybe that was short-lived. I want to look at a currency that we haven't talked about much today other than in the Trader's Espresso, which is the euro. Not a currency pair, but the actual futures on the euro, which is a dollar-denominated asset. All of this is the ECB announced their rate decision at 5:45, that they were holding rates steady. So that was bullish on the euro, I guess. I mean, obviously, if it's trading up. But then something came out during Mario Draghi's press conference that is sending the euro down. I paid attention to part of it, but I didn't listen to the whole thing. So I'm not exactly sure what that would have been. It may have been Mario Draghi putting some kind of stake in the ground on when they're targeting, and it's not even targeting tightening monetary policy, it's targeting like, when are we going to think about, well, here we go, ECB signals tighter policy, so that's what it is. $5.45 was when the rate decision was announced. The policy statement it says here was unchanged, but I thought I heard Mario Draghi talking about there was one sentence in it that was removed. Continuing its program of asset purchases through September or beyond if necessary. So that's leaving an opening. So at 6:30 Arizona time, 8:30 Eastern time, was when his press conference began. This is the key right here. In a policy statement, the ECB dropped, so I don't know if that's the statement or if that's his press conference. The ECB dropped a long-held pledge to accelerate its 30 billion euro a month bond buying program if the region's economy deteriorates. That promise, designed to reassure investors, had been criticized by some ECB officials as excessive given the strength of the bloc's economic recovery. So basically the ECB is saying, if this economy deteriorates, we're not going to consider accelerating the bond buying program because this economy is so strong. So that sets the ECB firmly on course to phase out its stimulus program, which of course Germany has been a critic of. That had the effect of driving the euro up, which is one you'd expect if they're talking about, if they're signaling monetary tightening. Should have stuck with my instincts. Okay, that was a bad move. Unemployment in the Eurozone is 8%. Whereas the US is 4.1. Now, granted, their economy is about 6 to 12 months behind ours in terms of recovery, but that still seems like a pretty big gap. So, on that note, now of course the Russell's moving where I wanted it to go. So, but I'm gonna top off my coffee. I'll be right back. Well, if I had just stuck with it. I'm just not seeing anything specific that is tied to this move down. Not in the headlines anyway. I think the euro is looking like a pretty dependable short, honestly. I mean, we don't necessarily need to know the reason behind the move. That would be ideal. And honestly, right now, we don't have any other trend line that we can draw that is a basis of support. So really what you're then looking at are price levels. indices, equity index futures are kind of, well, the cash markets too, are kind of stumbling right now. I mean, the S&P is down. I mean, it's flat for all intents and purposes. You know, the NASDAQ is off of its highs. Both the 100 and the composite, the Dow, was down. You know, VIX is down, but not, it's off the lows. VIX, the volatility on the Russell is elevated, which we've known, you know, that's not surprising given this move down. Dollar's up 0.4%. Gold's down. Crude's down. There's a little bit more of a flight to treasuries. 20 bips. 0.2%. Pulling yields down. The euro now is starting to catch a bid. So I'm looking for some bouncing in this channel. I would short when it hits this level, this area here, assuming the stochastics support it. It's looking like the move down in the euro may just be dollar strength rather than euro weakness. So here's a range for the yen. strong chance that we'll see bouncing like this. The Russell's on a pretty, seeing out of the corner of my eye, the Russell's on a pretty strong move up. Another good short candidate is crude. It broke below the recent low at 10 o'clock on the 7th, which was yesterday. This was after the EIA numbers came out. And it doesn't really, other than trading within the boundaries of this channel, which, because the channel's forming, it could always break through. But, you've got a price level here, which is just about at. And one there. And that's pretty much it down to your trend line. So you're targeting a move down here maybe? Maybe not today though. Today might be around here. $59.57, so that's 80 cents. That's 80 ticks, 800 bucks. This would be where you would set your stop. I wouldn't short it here. I'd probably wait for it to trade here and then play it down as a bounce. Then you'd set your stop somewhere probably above this midpoint. Calculate reverse reward. It's about 15 ticks a risk for 80 ticks a gain. Probably more than 15 ticks because, basically you don't want to put your stop right there. You give it a few ticks. But a close above that means it's trading up here in this half of the channel rather than here. That's probably a better, since the bias I think is to the upside. We're in an upward trend, so if I draw a Fibonacci extension, so in other words, this was the move, now it's retraced to here, it's bouncing off of that, that's where we set our Fibonacci. That makes for a busy chart. Crude's traded back up into the regression channel. That's noteworthy. And I gotta tell you, of these 6, I think I'm most interested in following the euro and the yen. And both of them as shorts. A short, maybe not at this level, but a short here, I'll show you. A short right there at this intersection. And the euro probably a squeeze out of here. I mean, if you want to, short it here and trade it and watch it go down, it's just if it were me, I'd probably be a little bit more cautious. I'd want to wait and see what it does here when it hits this level of support. Um, I was wondering if Fibonacci fans would fit there, but I don't think it will. Wow, copper is just continuing to be punished. So copper is the market that is not shaking off trade wars. I mean, look, equities aren't doing so hot today either. I mean, in light of yesterday's rally, the copper's down almost 2% today. NASDAQ. I'm curious to know if there are any headlines about copper right now. From about, well, this is last night at 10 o'clock. Big gap down, 10 o'clock, big gap down, another one at 1:40. Now these are mountain time, so I add 2 hours to that for East Coast time. You know, an attempt at a rally, got stuffed at 8 o'clock Eastern time, got stuffed again at 8:36. Demand worries. Trade war fears pressure metal prices. Economic slowdown in China. So it's a combination of stronger dollar, weak Chinese demand, which is separate from trade wars. You know, the worries about metal tariffs and trade wars is certainly not helping sentiment. But this slide is more supply-demand driven than anything else. Copper's catching a bit of a bid right now, which you kind of expect. I mean, it's the bottom end of this channel. It just bounced off of this trend line. I believe that's what we're looking at. Of course, I drew that trend line, so. But yes, copper is catching a bid. So it's probably a short. From here, if it doesn't trade up through. And the Russell we've already drawn, so we know that we're up to date on this. And then finally, the lovely 10-year Treasury. Keep my eye on gold. Copper's a bounce. Actually, I said short here. I think you could also argue a bounce play. If we look at the stochastics, yeah, I think an argument could be made. If this confirms yeah, that's a solid play, actually. Not looking at the day chart, but the 4 and the 1 hour confirm what we're seeing in the other charts, in the other time frames. Russell is forming another bear stochastic crossover on the 1-minute chart. Which it just formed, but there's more upside momentum on the charts on either side of it, that's not going to last long. So I'm a buyer here. Yeah, that didn't last long because it just reversed itself. Of course, it's reversing itself again. Whoops, we actually got our short opportunity on the euro. Although this is not going well now. It's enough to shake me out of it, but not enough to play the other direction. Might be worth another try. Especially if we get a break below here. And actually, that's an encouraging sign, but I would wait to get a break below here, and then maybe might consider adding another contract, another short contract. Well, it's 9:32 now, 11:32 East Coast time, so lunchtime. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the stream. I don't know what I'm going to do about the euro. This is just, I'm probably going to keep an eye on it. It's just very choppy right now. I don't think it's the best setup. Obviously, I was wrong about this area being an area to short it because what's really done is just move sideways through that. So anyway, enjoy your lunch, and I will see you on the other side at about 1:30 Eastern.